www.omniperforms.com.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
Get ready to celebrate the 55th edition of the Big Game with exclusive 55-1 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook. And if you've never tried FanDuel before, new users can bet on either team and get 55-1 odds when the Chiefs take on the Buccaneers. That's right, you can bet 5 and win $275 if you pick the winner of the Big Game on February 7th. It's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes coming off a huge win last year in the Big Game, but who could ever bet against Tom Brady? I hate to say it, I can't bet against Tom Brady. I've been betting football on FanDuel all season long. It's easy to use, easy to register, easy to deposit, and easy to find your bets. Plus, fast withdrawals. When you win, FanDuel pays your winnings in as little as 24 hours. There's always odds boosts and specials as well. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and use promo code RICK to get started. That's the FanDuel Sportsbook promo code RICK. Must be 21 and over and present in PA and West Virginia. New users only. Must wager on designated boost market. Deposit required. Max bonus $275. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? In West Virginia, visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. Weather look at your local weather forecast for your Thursday. A mix of clouds and sunshine through a good portion of the day. Temperatures in the lower 40s for daytime highs, falling back to about 31 for the overnight low. Back into the mid to upper 30s for daytime highs under mostly cloudy skies for your Friday. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
What day is it?
Today is Thursday.
Thursday.
Okay, just remember Thursday.
Let's wake up.
Wake up. Let's go. It's time.
No, I really don't want to.
I don't really want to. This is our show.
People are counting on us. The galaxy is counting on us.
Can I ask how many people are listening right now?
One at a time, everybody. One at a time.
Well, then we best get going.
Let's put on a show.
It's showtime, folks.
Conversations you care about with people you know. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe, brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
We have been talking about a lot already, and we have more territory yet to cover as the Watchdog Morning Show goes on this morning. His constituents sent him back home, but Governor Justice brings Mitch Carmichael back into state government. Brad McElhenney was with us earlier this morning talking about it. If you missed Brad's segment, I'll have it up on podcast later today. The governor expects an additional 3,000 COVID vaccines thanks to a new Biden administration initiative. And we were talking about that last hour and how that might impact us. There's going to be some additional vaccine clinics this week, and I'll talk about those in a couple of minutes. Some controversy growing over smokers being in the high priority category for getting vaccines. And some folks think that smokers make a choice. It may be that they're more affected by COVID, but the reality is they made that choice. And So we've been talking about that, and you're welcome to text me on that subject. Should smokers get a higher priority for COVID? 304-214-1600. A rising country music star banned from many radio stations after his use of the N-word. The Republican Party in the capital city is still grappling with, the nation's capital I'm talking about, still grappling with how to deal with controversial members. Marjorie Taylor Greene remains in her Senate, in her committees, but so does Congresswoman Liz Cheney. So on the one hand, the conservatives are upset inside the Republican Party. On the other hand, the moderate and progressive Republicans are a bit upset. We'll get into that. And the Mountain State Legislature back in session next week. Democrats are in a super minority. Delegate Sean Fluharty will join us to talk about exactly how they intend to handle the fact that the numbers just ain't going to work for them this time around. We'll get into that coming up later on. Highs today, close to 40 degrees. That's the good news. The bad news is it's not we're close to 40 just yet. We're looking for some mixed precipitation, mixture of sun and clouds during the day today. It is a nice sunny morning outside right now. And we're looking for some rain to come in the evening tonight. Then a colder front will move in tomorrow, and we'll start to see some precipitation. Could be a wintry mix, could be some snow, and then look for some snow this weekend as well. Currently, it is, the good news is we've gone up 18 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 18, that's good. It was 16 earlier. 18's good. 18 degrees at the airport, and we're no longer in the single-digit feels-like range. Nope, now we're 10. That's good. We've doubled it. We were in the feels-like of 5 earlier. Now we're in 10, so that's good news. 18 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 18 degrees at my home studios here in Elm Grove, and 18 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group Studios, downtown Wheeling, in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Do want you to watch us on Facebook Live video. If you're on with us already, I appreciate that. A lot of folks already have checked in, started bright and early this morning, and some of you have stayed with us the whole time, and I do thank you for that. We're always on Facebook Live video on my Facebook page and on the Watchdogs Facebook page, so pick and choose where you'd like to go. If you're a friend of me or a follower of the Watchdogs page, when we do go live, it'll pop up on your screen and say, Howard Monroe has gone live, and then you can know it's time to tune us in. If you don't want to watch us directly off Facebook, that's okay. You can watch us on our YouTube channel, where we have all of our shows archived. If you're not sure how to get to the YouTube channel, go to our website, watchdognetwork.com, and there's a link to our YouTube channel there. And also, the video feed itself is right in the watchdognetwork.com website, so you can just watch us directly off the website. I do ask you one thing. If you're watching us, please hit the like button. I always say, if you want to hit the love button, the heart button, that's okay. But hit like and then share it, all right? Hit the share button and send it off to your friends, your followers on your own page, so that more and more people so you can spread the wealth around. More people can watch me here at the home studios. If nothing else, it's a good laugh, right? So like and share it. If you will. Biff, I never heard of Morgan Wallen. Did you? You're a little more in tune sometimes with the music world than I am. I never heard of him. Have you ever heard of him before?
No, I've not heard of him. I was busy out looking for egg-sucking legs on cows.
We do need to keep that in mind, too. The Governor Justice told CNN this week that we got to stop counting those egg-sucking legs on cows and move right now. Oh, my God. CNN, national media. The governor's getting a lot of pub, and that's good. He's getting, the state's getting a lot of positive pub for getting a lot of vaccines in arms. I still think it's a little disingenuous because, again, one of the reasons we're able to do, I don't want to diminish the fact that we've done a good job and the governor's done a good job of managing this. I do think we're simply a smaller state. We don't have as many people to get vaccinated, so it makes it a bit easier to do that. But nonetheless, he's getting a lot of pub, but when he said the egg-sucking legs on cows, I'm picturing people across the country going, who's this guy? He's a governor? he's the governor of the state? What's an egg-sucking leg? I don't understand what the egg-sucking legs are. So, anyway. But back to Morgan Wallen. I had never heard of him, I'll be honest. Now, I'm not a big music guy anymore, especially a country music fan. I like some country music, but I'm not a country music hater. But I'm not a big fan, so I never heard of Morgan Wallen. But apparently over the weekend, Morgan Wallen, who is an up-and-coming country star, had been out having, well, how do we want to say this politely? Some excessive amounts of fun over the weekend. You understand what I'm saying, Biffy?
Yes, I'm following.
Yeah, okay. And so he and his buddies had been out on the town in Nashville over the weekend. They arrived at his home around midnight. Apparently they were very loud and honking horns and talking loudly, and I understand that. Can't say I never did it myself. I understand it. But it was enough to really tick off the neighbors, and one of the neighbors began recording what was going on. And apparently, as Morgan Wallen stumbles towards his house, he tells someone to watch out for another guy in his group, and he says, take care of this, take care of this. I can't use almost any of the words that in the rest of this quote. Take care of this P.A. mother bleeper. And then he goes on to say, and that's bad, all right? But then he goes on to say, take care of this P.S. N-word. Did I give you the flavor of that? I can't use any of these words. I can't use any of these words on the radio.
If you use your imagination, you can figure it out.
But the bottom line is he used the N-word in his drunken ramble. A video from a neighbor's doorbell cam showed the scene before this whole thing got started, and apparently, it was just a big drunken evening. But once that story got out, and not just the fact that he was drunk, I don't want to say this politely without getting people mad at me, that's kind of a thing for country music people, right, Biff? I mean, isn't that sort of part of what country music's all about?
Yeah, it can be.
I mean, come on now, I'm drinking a beer and loving my truck, and I got a woman that, well, never mind. But you understand what I'm saying. I mean, excessive amounts of alcohol are part of the milieu of country music. So the fact that he was drunk isn't necessarily bad. The use of really bad language there, like MF and so on, is not good. But where he turned the corner was when he used the N-word. And that has been enough to get him banned on large numbers of radio stations around the country. I mean, some of the largest radio station groups, the group owners, have sent out a memo to all of their people to not play his music. Now, Wallen has apologized. I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry. I used an unacceptable and inappropriate racial slur. I wish I could take it back. There are no excuses for this type of language ever. I want to sincerely apologize for using the word. I promise to do better. I mean, he said all the right things. And by the way, I probably believe him. Things said in the midst of a drunken ramble you shouldn't necessarily be held accountable for them, forever. I can't, please don't, please don't.
But you can't say the word.
In this day and age, the N-word that's really crossing the line.
I mean, unless you're talking about, a book, or you're going back to something in history, and it's
right.
it's an historical context. I mean, that's other than that, no. I mean, just don't use the word. There are certain words that it doesn't matter if you're drunk or whatever. There are certain words that you just don't say, and that's one of them.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, and I'll probably get in trouble for implying that sometimes You know, you have to, what's that line? God forgives drunks and something. I'll probably get in trouble for saying that, you know, you have to kind of accept the reality that sometimes people in a drunken stupor will say some things that they wish they hadn't said. But on the other hand, usually there is a nugget of truth behind them, Biff. You know, the drunken guy goes, I love you, Jesus, I love you. Now, probably wouldn't do it tomorrow, right? But after enough beers or tequila or whatever, I love you, Jesus, I love you. Or even worse, I love you, man, I love you, right? I mean, there's always a grain of truth behind that. So if someone throws the N-word out, now, again, the bad language, no, nobody should use that language. Have I used language I would never use on the radio, but instead used it in my personal life? I have. But the N-word, again, if that word comes to your mind in your drunken self, I don't know. I think that maybe it may not be the first time you've used the word. You know what I'm saying, Biff?
Yeah, I mean, just eliminate it. It should not be used. You shouldn't say it. There's no reason that word should be used as part of your language. I mean, just
it's a period end of sentence thing, right?
Get rid of it. And this is happening. I don't know if you remember a couple weeks ago on the PGA Tour, golfer Justin Thomas missed a putt in a tournament, and because there were no fans there, he said a gay slur.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
that's right.
One of his major sponsors, which I believe, I want to say Ralph Lauren, or if it wasn't them, it was someone else, but one of his big sponsors dropped him. And, you know, right after it happened, he basically did the same thing that this guy did, apologized and everything, but still he had one of his main sponsors. They said, no, we're not going to be associated with you anymore, and they dropped him. And that's, again, I think that was about 3 weeks ago, but you got to be careful now. I mean, nobody on the golf course, a microphone on the green picks it up. Would it have picked it up if there were fans there? I don't know, but you know, you still just you don't say that. You don't do things like that, especially now where everything you do something, it's either going to get recorded, there's going to be a video. I mean, you got to be careful in what you do and what you say.
And again, there are certain things that will fade away. Use bad language. That's going to be distressing, and you may suffer a bit. But there's a line that in this day and age you can't cross. And certainly the N-word. I mean, there isn't anything more clear than the N-word, right?
Oh, I mean, it's clear as could be.
It's really simple and easy to see what's wrong there, and it's wrong. So I don't know if he's really popular. And again, I do not know that. But if he's truly popular, probably at some point I don't say greed, but the business side of things will overcome the moral side of things, and they'll probably let his music be played again. But he's going to suffer some punishment for a while, and rightly so, and rightly so. I just think you have to be more careful these days. If you have some thoughts on that, feel free to text me, 304-214-1600, 304-214-1600, the Watchdog Radio Network text line. You're welcome to share your thoughts. Let's see. I was looking for this story here. Across the country, Entercom, Cumulus, these are some of the biggest radio station group owners in the country. Entercom, Cumulus, and the guys up the street, iHeartMedia, all have dropped Morgan Wallen's music from their playlists. The folks up the street, iHeartMedia, nationwide, said, in light of Morgan Wallen's recent actions involving the use of a racial slur, we have made the decision to remove his music and content from our stations effective immediately. And other major groups have followed through with the same kind of thing. My guess would be that at some point they'll put him back in rotation, but I don't know. It is a reminder, though, of how quickly a career can be capsized, Biff. If that band stays, these big groups, and they control the vast majority of country music stations around the country, if that ban stays in effect, his career is pretty much done. I mean, country music especially can't survive without the use of radio. Some of the other forms of music, genres of music, have been able to bypass radio, but not country music. They use radio a lot. So we'll see what happens there, but it's an object lesson to everybody. Drunk or not drunk, be careful of what you say. You could find yourself on the wrong side of a ban. Now, I know some people will bring out the cancel culture. This is cancel culture. Keep in mind, you have every right in the world to say what you want to say, but then business folks have every right in the world to respond how they choose to respond. You want to use the N-word, you have, to some extent, freedom of speech to do that. But people who have a business relationship with you also have a right to say, I don't want to be associated with you. And that's what's happening to him right now. Again, I never heard of him before. I'll be brutally honest. But I guess he's pretty popular. He's supposed to be on SNL, or maybe he was on SNL recently, Saturday Night Live, I don't know. Hey, listen, I want to take a real quick minute before the break to give a shout out to FanDuel Sportsbook. They have found the perfect way for everyone to get in on the action this Sunday. I don't know if you've heard, Biff. There's a big game coming up Sunday.
Oh, yes, there is.
A big game. They're calling it the big game because they're not allowed to call it the So our friends at FanDuel have come up with Big Game Bingo. You can claim your free Big Game Bingo card right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Now, the card will automatically fill up as you're watching the game. So once you've filled 5 squares in a row, you call bingo and claim your share of a total of $100,000 in prizes being available across the country. FanDuel is the exclusive home of Big Game Bingo, and your card is waiting for you right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. The app is easy to use. It takes less than 2 minutes to sign up. Very intuitive to figure it out. Once you're there, you can put in deposits very quickly so you can get started on betting, and you get your money back very quickly if you win. There are more ways to win on FanDuel during the big game, but there's no excuse to miss out on Big Game Bingo. Perfect for everyone, where you can win your share of $100,000 in prizes. And it's absolutely free to play. Just go to the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Sean Fluharty is going to join us coming up after the news break, and we'll talk about how the super minority of Democrats in the House, in Sean's case, but it's in both bodies of the legislature in Charleston this year, are going to deal with, with being in a very small minority. That's coming up here on the Watchdog Morning Show. It's 18 degrees. That's cold. Feels like 10. Still cold. And 9:30 in the morning.
The Metro News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Let me know if we get Sean. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
John's a 10-point dog, win paid out plus 375 of the money line. Super Bowl 55 Sunday, the Chiefs laying 3 against the Buccaneers. The total has dropped from 56.5 to 56. For vsin.com, I'm Mike Sennett on the Watchdog.
Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection. Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
CA House Music has all the gear to make your music legendary. With all the best gear, including Fender, Epiphone, Yamaha, and more, CA House will have you rocking in no time. Get the most for your money with everyday low prices. And we meet or beat internet pricing. Play before you buy and let our product specialists help you pick out the instrument that's right for you. CA House Music, supporting local musicians since 1872. Play music for life.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. Weather look at your local weather forecast for your Thursday. A mix of clouds and sunshine through a good portion of the day. Temperatures in the lower 40s for daytime highs, falling back to about 31 for the overnight low. Back into the mid to upper 30s for daytime highs under mostly cloudy skies for your Friday. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
Thank you for riding with the Watchdog. Live and local, just the way you like it. Give us a call and tell us what you're thinking. Locally, 304-214-1600. Out of the area, toll free, 866-514-1600 or 304-232-TALK.
You're all puppets, tangled in strings. There are no strings on me.
It is time to welcome into the show Ohio County Delegate Sean Fluharty, 3rd District Delegate Sean Fluharty. But Sean, I don't know, you got a little testy about being called the Puppet Master yesterday when you were on with the mayor. Are we still allowed to call you the Puppet Master?
You're allowed, Howard. The mayor was ripping off your, your theme there.
Well, the mayor rips me off all the time. I give him great ideas, and then he goes and says, "I have a wonderful idea," and that's just that's the relationship we have.
That's what makes people. That's what makes successful politicians. Yeah.
Taking other people's ideas. I get you. Hey, real quick before we get to what the House is, it's in the other body. But what do you think about Mitch Carmichael coming back as the top economic development specialist in West Virginia?
Well, I mean, I don't know if he earned it by his record, but it's kind of par for the course in West Virginia politics. Once you lose an election, somehow you find your way to fail up, and that's what happens. And that's what looks like. I always do a Mitch Carmichael impersonation when he's around down there in the Senate because, honestly, I disagree with him, but he can take a joke, and he doesn't mind when you kind of crack at him a little bit. And I thought I was going to have to retire that, Howard, but now that he's going to be back down there in Charleston, it looks like I'll have to get, break it out again. But, I don't know what how he's going to roll day to day as far as how he's going to work around the Capitol. I mean, obviously he has relationships with legislators already, and that's probably appealing if you want to bring somebody into the cabinet. So, they made that decision. But, I was surprised that he'll be joining us again.
The governor yesterday referred to Carmichael's, quote, stuck on personality, end quote. And it took me a while to figure that out, but Brad McElhaney pointed out, I guess he is always stuck on. I mean, he is an upbeat, outgoing kind of guy. I mean, he's a politician, and he's a good salesman. Now, he lost his seat, but I don't know. I don't know. He is stuck on. I at least get that. But let's bring it back to your body, the House. Yesterday, Henshaw and some others were outlining some of their concerns. One of the biggest issues, Sean, this session is simply going to be access to get you all getting together and the public having a chance to see what's going on, reporters having a chance to see what's going on, and lobbyists aren't going to be able to lobby. I mean, that's going to be a pretty big deal this year, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of how we function properly down there. It's not just lobbyists. The concerns I have are, for example, Howard, when we're in committee. And in committee, we like to bring in, I like to bring in many times, people to testify. And depending on what the issue is in the bill in front of us. So there's kind of two sides to that. One being, are we going to get the agenda ahead of time, for example, in Judiciary Committee on important legislation? And we're going to have enough time once we get that agenda to get people to the Capitol and on a list or however they plan to do this, to allow people inside the Capitol to make sure that their voices are heard, people who could be harmed or affected by a piece of legislation, that they're allowed to present their case. And that's how legislators learn the process, and especially with so many new legislators. We have to have opinions from people outside of the House chamber to fill us in on what's going on and to help educate legislators on the votes they're about to make and the impact it'll have on the state of West Virginia. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out, because I don't know if there's a clear, definite protocol in place yet.
And Henshaw yesterday said that he's being concerned about COVID maybe interfering as time goes by. He wants to hit the ground running. I think his word was aggressive. He wants an aggressive beginning to the session, trying to get major legislation pushed through very quickly in case something goes wrong COVID-wise. And there's some logic to that, but that also sounds to me a little bit like trying to ram things through without having adequate time to discuss them.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a front-loaded session. I think you're going to see a lot of bills that only go through one committee, single-reference bills, which I find alarming, because many times you'll have bills that, for instance, may start in Gov.org and then work their way to Judiciary. And when you have two committees working on a piece of legislation, obviously you get more eyes and ears on this piece of legislation, but at the same time, you may find errors that were made at the previous committee or bring up issues that weren't talked about in the previous committee. And it just makes for better functionality at the end of the day, for a better product to come to the House floor. Because once it gets to the House floor, and especially with the numbers that we have now, there's really no turning back. And there could be times where we find errors on the House floor in a piece of legislation, then we have to recommit the bill back to a committee. And that's not good. It doesn't look good for how we operate. And I prefer to have bills go through multiple committees for that very reason. And it looks like they're going to front load session. They're going to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the beginning because of the COVID situation. And, I just don't think that's the best way to operate. But the numbers are what they are, Howard, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. The only thing we can do is try to work on good piece of legislation to make them better and bring up the facts to the people on the piece of legislation we disagree with.
Well, and that's the real question I have for you. Democrats are in a super minority. What is it, 23 in the House only, I think? Just 23 of you there? What do you do?
We lost one since the election.
You have almost no ability to set the agenda or even to push much of an agenda through. You simply are in the Republicans have an overwhelming majority. How are you, the Democrats, and you're in leadership now in the Democratic caucus, how are you guys going to handle this?
Well, Howard, I've been there now since I was first elected in 14, so took office in 15 for my first session. And I think you'd agree with me, I've never been quiet on anything. And people understand where my position on a piece of legislation, and if they harm West Virginians, and I have no problem speaking out. And I've been in the minority the entire time. So this is not really uncharted waters for myself or the caucus as a whole. Now, obviously, the numbers have changed since when I originally came in, Howard. I believe we had 36. Then we bumped up to 41, and now we're, in the basement with the 23. But nothing really changes as far as how we go about our business. And I think a clear example of that is what's going on now with the proposed tax changes and tax reform in this state, and what we're seeing being talked about and potentially making it to the House floor for a final vote. We're talking about sales tax increase to 8% or higher, which would just completely harm the Northern Panhandle and Eastern Panhandle and any county that borders another state. A complete broadening of our tax structure to include items that aren't currently taxed, reinstating the food tax. And then, Howard, above nothing else, the one thing people need to understand, the Promise Scholarship is on the chopping block now. I mean, can you imagine? You ever think in your lifetime you would hear that talked about as a potential act by the legislature eliminating the Promise Scholarship in a state that's losing young people, and we work hard to try to retain what we have, and you're just going to basically open the door and say bye-bye? I mean, I was part of the first class to receive the Promise Scholarship, and that kept me in West Virginia for sure. Now, I'm sure many of my peers in the legislature probably wished it wasn't around at then, because maybe I wouldn't be here right now, but it kept me here, and maybe want to fight for West Virginia even more because they gave me an opportunity I may not have had without the Promise. And in a state where we had
they're talking about eliminating all, again, this is not set in stone, but talking about eliminating all state funding for WVU and Marshall. I mean, how does that help? What's that all about?
It's taking away the money that currently goes to WVU Med School, which is a great med school that continues to grow year in and year out, and we can point to for our flagship university and be proud of the work product that they produce and the students that come out of there and the doctors that remain here and go to work in desolate areas of the state that need health care. And we're going to say, well, we're going to put them in a weaker position because we got to make sure we fulfill our campaign promises, which are IOUs. Let's be honest here. These campaigns, a lot of money is spent. A lot of money is spent from outside resources to elect certain people in the state of West Virginia. And it's been happening for many, many years. It's not just a one-party issue, but that clearly one party is driving who can give more money to campaigns. And that was a dark Friday night in the legislature where we dramatically changed our campaign finance reform and how much money can be given to candidates in the state of West Virginia, and it was a party line vote. And then as a byproduct of that party line vote, more money was spent to get people elected. We now have the numbers we have, and the train's going down the tracks, and there's nothing we can do to stop it other than make sure that the public is aware of what's going on and what goes on behind the scenes. And in this laundry list of changes related to the state income tax, that leaked out from their own caucus. That leaked out because these are proposals that were talked about. And so it sounds to me there may already be a split going on within the supermajority as to how they want to go about their business.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as you point out a minute ago, the whole time you've been in office, the Democrats have been in the minority, but this is a very small minority. One of your biggest advantages, it sounds to me like the Republican leadership has not yet gotten a real sense of its own caucus. Especially this income tax thing. Craig Blair in the Senate had said a few weeks ago, I guess last week, that, they were going to work on eliminating the income tax and were not going to do anything to increase any other taxes. They would just cut spending. Now we see that Republicans are looking at maybe raising the sales tax, maybe getting rid of WVU funding, maybe getting rid of the Promise Scholarship. Your greatest asset right now, you being the Democrats' greatest asset, may simply be some disarray among the Republicans in terms of what to do and how to handle this.
Well, when you're working with a caucus of that size, you're going to have some fracturing, and they had that prior to the numbers that they currently have because you have kind of two different sides on tax reform. One says let's eliminate the business inventory tax. The other says let's eliminate the state income tax. Right. Well, both are costly, but eliminating state income tax is roughly, I believe, it's a 40% blow to our budget. So it's not like you can just kind of say, okay, eliminate state income tax, and we'll just pick up a tax over on here, and that'll make up for it. No. It's far too much money we're talking about. That's why you're seeing a laundry list of changes. And let's just talk about what that does for the Northern Panhandle, Howard. If you're in Ohio County and the sales tax takes a jump to 10%, I mean, what's that going to do to places like the Highlands and downtown Wheeling and anywhere in the Northern Panhandle for that matter? I mean, you're going to make real-world choices between Ohio and Pennsylvania, certainly much more than you do now. And It's all about competing. And one of the excuses we hear from legislators is like, well, look at Florida. Florida doesn't have a state income tax. Yeah, that's Florida. They compete with water because they're a peninsula. We are not. We're a panhandle state, not a peninsula. A panhandle state competes with its neighbors. And that's why I've been so supportive of adult use cannabis for many years, because we have to compete with our neighbors. We know that Pennsylvania now is green-lighting it, and that's a pun intended, Howard, green-lighting the process for adult use cannabis to be fully implemented in our state. And here we are, sitting here holding the bag, and now they're saying, oh, wait a minute, as part of this tax reform structure, maybe we're going to have to actually legalize cannabis. Now they want to come to the table with it, Howard. They didn't want to for the past 5 years when we introduced legislation, begged and pleaded on the House floor to at least get a vote on it. They wouldn't even put it to a vote. And now, because they have these campaign promises they have to make and these IOUs that need paid back, now they want to talk about legalizing cannabis. I mean, it's situational principles to the highest degree.
One of the things you and I have talked about over the last several years has been you can certainly, if you want to talk about eliminating some taxes, then your option is to increase other taxes or cut spending. But the third option, which we don't ever seem to pay attention to, is bringing in totally new sources of revenue. The gambling issue and the cannabis issue they're new sources of revenue. It's money that we didn't have at all before. It's not increasing anything. It's bringing in totally new money. And we seem to be adverse to wanting to do that.
You hit the nail on the head, Howard. And that's exactly how we were able to get sports betting passed and iGaming passed, because it was an example of raising new revenue without raising taxes. And you only get so many opportunities to do that. And you should execute on those when they arise. And you're talking about an industry, when you talk about legalizing cannabis, an industry that's one of the fastest growing in the entire country. Now, there's a reason why Congress is talking about it right now, because states who have enacted this type of legislation are seeing young people move there, for one. You're seeing people with jobs that pay well and have health care. And it's one of the fastest growing industries in the entire country. We are not in a position in the state of West Virginia to say we're too good for the fastest growing sector in our economy. We're just too good for that, Howard. We're not in that position. We need to use everything at our disposal to make our state compete with the likes of Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Virginia, and Maryland. Do everything we can. And if you're leaving legislation on the sidelines because you have these, situational principles that you think, oh my, if I vote for this, I might lose an election, then you're doing it wrong. You're not a public servant. You're truly a politician because you only care about yourself and not the state of West Virginia.
I was watching a documentary on CNBC over the weekend, which was looking at the green industry all across the country and the places that have legalized cannabis, the huge amount of revenue they generate. I mean, it's staggering numbers. Now, West Virginia being a smaller state than some of the others would not generate the total number, but it's a staggering amount of money that comes into those states that have chosen to legalize cannabis.
Absolutely is. And I took advantage of going to Colorado and meeting with Governor Hickenlooper at the time. And in small tidbit on that, one of his first investments was in Wheeling, West Virginia at River City Ale Works. And he was in the brewery business, eventually becomes governor of Colorado. We go out there and met with him and other legislators to see how they were operating their legislation related to adult use cannabis. Learned a great deal toward facilities, and you're talking about facilities that employ hundreds and hundreds of people in just one spot. Milan the horrible news we got out of Morgantown with Milan, but there's no reason why we can't create multiple Milans with the legal cannabis industry. These empty warehouses up and down the northern panhandle, Howard, could be filled with hope again and workers. And that's the absolute fact, because everything we do in the legalized cannabis industry has to be done in the state of West Virginia. What I mean from that is from seed to sale. It all has to be done in West Virginia. And can you name any other industries where we're doing that? Are we mining coal and only burn it in West Virginia? No, we ship it out. This all has to be done in West Virginia. So the secondary impact of that is you're employing people from every step of the line, every tier, from seed to sale. And that's a lot of workers. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of revenue, and it really opens up a different dynamic for our state. If we had done that years ago when I took that trip to Colorado, we could have very easily been Colorado of the East. But we chose not to do that.
Well, again, I don't want to belabor the point. We are always, even when we get a head start, we end up running last. I mean, again, we kind of got a head start on both the gambling and the cannabis issue. Actually, I guess your first term or your second year in there. So we got a head start, but we're still running behind. I don't want to belabor the point, but that tends to be, unfortunately, the West Virginia way, I guess.
Look how many years ago we passed medical cannabis. And we're just now getting to the point where we're going to have citizens getting certified and then we're going to actually see people getting help that they've been waiting for years. And that happens because the legislature didn't make it a priority. We passed a watered-down piece of legislation, and then through bureaucracy and the lack of any legislators wanting to actually see it move forward, we slow-rolled it out. And here we are years later. Finally, we're going to get some help. While Ohio's had help and Pennsylvania's had help, West Virginia, even though we passed it years ago, we just slow-rolled it. It's a shame. It's a shame that we're in that position, and that's our storied history, Howard. I mean, I agree with you there. It's just kind of a redundancy that we can't be proud of. We got to change the way we operate, and not just in what we pass in the legislature, but how we implement the laws that get passed.
I've only got a minute or two left here, real quick, Sean. There are going to be some issues that I think are going to be contentious, both in the Senate. Craig Blair last week, yesterday Hanshaw talked about education choice, charter schools coming back up, deregulation efforts. That's going to be controversial. It does look to me like there are a couple of areas where, at least in terms of the goal that Republicans and Democrats can agree on, one is expanding broadband. The other is trimming, to some extent, the governor's emergency powers. Now, how we get to those things, there may be some political differences, but at least I think we can both parties can agree on the goals of those things, right?
Well, expanding broadband's goal, it should have been started years ago. And if you're going to compete in today's economy, it's not just a goal, it's a necessity. And it's an absolute necessity that we step our game when it comes to broadband, because young people are more remote now than ever, Howard. And if COVID has taught us anything, it's definitely taught us that young people can work and live anywhere now, because they don't have to be on site for their jobs. They can work remotely. Well, we're a destination location if you love the outdoors, and we want to bring a high quality of life for people. But that starts with having strong broadband, because they're not going to move here if they don't have that access. So that's step one. And as far as the powers of the governor, I think you're going to see a bipartisan agreement on that. The governor now has essentially operated like a king for a year. And that's not the intention of the West Virginia Constitution, and I would argue that it's not. And I think you're going to see a bipartisan agreement, and especially coming from my friend Pat McGeehan out there in Hancock County. I know he's been very passionate on this issue, that we must adhere to the Constitution, and we can't allow one guy to control essentially the role of the legislature, which is the power of the purse and all this money that he's been sitting on for COVID relief.
Well, it's going to be an interesting session. I'm sure that next week, after the State of the State speech, we'll be figuring out how you guys, what you're going to do, and we'll probably be talking a whole lot more, Sean, once the session gets underway. Got to run for the moment, though. I do appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much, and good luck. I know you eagerly awaiting getting back down there in Charleston.
Getting that itch, Howard. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. 4 before the hour, quick time to grab a quick update on what's happening at the Big Seven. Bob Westfall is here. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Howard. How are you?
I'm cold. Well, again, I'm not cold because I'm inside, but Lord, is it cold outside.
It's only just beginning. That's one of the things we're watching. We got a cold snap. One of those polar vortexes approaching here for the early Monday. Zach, Dr. Dave, and Aaron are going to be watching that all weekend. So we've got that's a big thing. And the big thing today is East Ohio Regional Hospital is going to reopen. They've hired 400 people. They're going to bring up fire up the emergency room again. Obviously, all because of the construction and worries about emergency personnel getting around that. So that happens today at 11. We will be there. We'll be live streaming that live on Facebook on our website. So we have that. Other things.
That's a really exciting story, by the way. I mean, that's
Oh, absolutely.
When Electo just shut down and walked out of town, who would have thought that in less than 2 years later, it would reopen again under new ownership and basically be a hospital again, a community hospital once again. It's a very exciting story.
So we will be there. Again, like I said, we'll be live streaming that on our Facebook and our website. So we will have that. Other things going on is the first vaccination clinic are taking place at the old Michaels in the Highlands. We're going to be there for that. And it's World Cancer Day. Talked to Dr. John David Pollock on that and kind of what you need to know when it comes to cancer, diagnosis, treatment, things like that. So Catherine talked to him the other day. She said it was a great interview, so we're going to have that today as well.
Well, sounds like a lot of good stuff coming up on the Big 7, noon, 5, 6, 10, 11, 5:30 for the statewide show. And most importantly, don't forget to keep on checking back frequently during the day to WTRF.com, where you always get your news. Oh, you're also covering a story out of Martins Ferry. There's some shots fired every night, too, right?
Yes. DK was getting that information. That should be up, if not on the web now, it'll be up shortly.
All right, sounds good. Hey, Bob, I appreciate it. We will talk to you tomorrow to put the wraps on the week. And I'll be watching the live stream of the opening of East Ohio on your website at 11 o'clock this morning.
All right, guys, I appreciate it. We'll talk
Thanks
tomorrow.
a lot, Bob Westfall from the Big 7, WTRF TV. And, well, that's it. I think I got to say sayonara, see you, bye-bye, farewell. I got to go. I got to get out of here. Kirchhoff's got the comm coming up next. I'm looking at Brad McElhenney's Twitter account. He's all over the egg-sucking legs on the cow. If you want to check out some stuff, check out McElhenney's Twitter account. Among other things, he says, don't count the egg-sucking legs on a cow. Just count baby dog. That's the governor's bulldog. Just count baby dog and divide by 4. I believe Hoppy and Brad are going to talk about the egg-sucking legs on the cow, and Mitch Carmichael and more coming up on Statewide Talk Line. As for me, good Lord Willings, creeks don't rise, bat phone doesn't ring, don't get impeached, don't retire, ticker keeps on ticking, don't overeat too much. I got sausage, gravy, and biscuits sitting there waiting for me coming up. And Teddy says it's okay to go back to work tomorrow, Granddad. I'll be back 7 o'clock in the morning. You back with me, Biffy?
Back to close out another week.
We are going to keep on doing it till we get it right.
That could be a long time.
Oh, indeed.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
I'm Sherry Preston.
All right. Not too bad. I guess I lost the connection there for a minute right at the very end of Sean, right? So that was, I didn't even realize it until I looked at my screen. It's always green when we're connected and yellow when we're not. And I said, what side have we got? And it's yellow. That's not good. So, but it came back fairly quickly. Yeah, Brad's all over this. He's got all kinds of tweets on this egg-sucking cow story. I wish it turned out better because you and I had fun with it too. I hadn't seen anything about it until you guys mentioned it. So that was pretty good. All right. I've got, looks like a full boat tomorrow. I got, Capehart was supposed to be on today to talk about that Bluefield State thing, and he bagged out on me. We're going to try it again tomorrow. I've got McCabe coming in, and I've got a radio row of some kind. I forget what it is, one of those 10-minute segments. So I think we got a pretty full day tomorrow, which probably means everything will fall apart because that's usually what happens. But it is a Friday, so we'll make it through to the end of the week. All right, if you need me, I'll be around. Let's see, Teddy's in school, but he's got a doctor's appointment, so Nancy's leaving to take him to the doctor. And that means I'm going to take a nap after I eat my sausage, gravy, and biscuits. So that's always a good idea. So I'll be here if you need me for anything. Otherwise, I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, thanks a lot, Biff. Appreciate your help, as always. All right, bye.
He was mistaken that he didn't have a gun. That mistake was an honest belief and one that was reasonable based on the totality of the situation.
You're listening to ABC News.
It's totally normal to be constipated with belly pain, straining, and bloating again and again.
No way. You could have a chronic condition called irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C. Linzess, or linaclotide, is a prescription that treats IBS-C in adults. Linzess works differently than laxatives to help relieve belly pain and let you have more frequent and complete bowel movements. Individual results may vary. Do not give to children less than 6, and it should not be given to children 6 to less than 18. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor today. You may be able to save on Linzess and make fewer trips to the pharmacy. See if you're eligible to pay as little as $30 for 90 days. Visit linzess.com or call 1-800-LI